What's up, guys? My name's Daniel, and today I wanted to talk about just living your life at your own pace and not really letting other people's expectations of what your life should look like dictate what you're doing. This kind of comes about in two ways, actually. Recently, I had a conversation with one of my friends who's kind of in one of those like transitional periods that 20-something-year-olds like us kind of find ourselves in, where you could kind of choose to go down the path of like furthering your career, whether it's through just going straight into work or going to school or doing different things that are a little bit more kind of career oriented, like long-term planning oriented, versus kind of doing more fun stuff that would just almost like build up like your dad lore, I guess. With this particular friend, we were talking about just whether he should push his plans back by like a year, a little bit less than a year, and then go do some cool races and some cool trips he wants to do, or if he should just go straight into the military, which he wants to do. And a few of the people he had talked to told him to just go straight into it, to stop pushing it off. But in my head, like, I told him, first of all, do what you want to do, because like it's his life, like if he feels like these are important things that he wants to do, I think that's what he should do. If he wants to go on, like, one of them is a 3-month trip in Thailand to learn Muay Thai, and that's so cool to me. But if he doesn't want to do it, like, that's up to him too. Like, I think the biggest thing is, I think a lot of times we have all these expectations of where we should be in life, what our parents are kind of expecting of us. We kind of start comparing ourselves to like other friends or people we went to high school or college with. Like, a lot of times people are getting married or having kids right now, and you're just kind of sitting here like, I doom scroll every night and have a job, and that's it. That's all I do. But like I said, like, everybody lives their lives at different paces. So there's no real comparison there, Like, maybe somebody has a job that they really wanted and that's what they got, but like, that's not in my plans. I personally, the way it comes about for me is like, I graduated college already. I want to go into law school eventually. And I could have gone straight into it. Like, I graduated December 2023 from college. But if I had done that, there's lots of little trips that I want to go on and things I want to experience. Like, I went on my Europe trip for 2 months last year. I'm going to go to Japan with my little brother in April, and that's going to be really fun. At some point, I want to backpack through South America, because obviously I've been to Colombia like many times, but I've never actually gone outside of Colombia to see other countries. And then I want to do El Camino Santiago, which is like, it's more of like a Catholic kind of pilgrimage kind of thing through through Spain. And I'm not really religious, but it's something that like my mom has really talked about, like, since as far back as I can remember. And it just seems really cool in like a pilgrimage kind of like spiritual way. So I'd like to do that. Some friends want to tag along, maybe see if my mom wants to do it or something. And then who knows what other trips I might come up with in the meantime. But I think it's good to have your kind of plans set because I want to do them, right? Because a lot of times, like, my dad, especially, my mom's a little more understanding. My dad kind of gets on me about like, you need to further your career. You need to kind of get on that, and that way you won't have to work as long and blah, blah, and all this other stuff. And I get where he's coming from. It comes from a place of wanting to set me up for life, basically, wanting to make sure that like I don't have to struggle in the future and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of times when we're talking to people, especially people that either like are kids, which I don't really have experience with because I'm not a dad, but or people that were kind of like almost like mentors for older siblings, like friends that are younger, that you can kind of guide. You almost want to like protect them a little too much, tell them exactly how to live their lives, but nobody lives their life like that. We all have to make mistakes to really learn our lessons. And I'm not saying that like one way of living your life or another way of living your life is a mistake, but again, it's all just kind of what you want to do. So with this friend, we kind of talked it out a little bit. In my head, it's like, go do it, honestly. Like, go do all these cool ass hikes, go do all these races, go do all these trips you want to do, and then like your career can come later, because I'm 23, he's 21. We're still really young. A lot of people get really caught up on the fact that like you're 22, 23, 24, whatever the age might be, early 20s, and you're pushing 30. Your life is over. It's all downhill from here and stuff like that. And I'll even joke about that sometimes, especially like online. You see it all the time. But that's not the case at all. Like that's so young. You have your whole entire life to figure out what you want to do, how you're going to do it, and all that. Like on average, like you should be living another like 50, 60 years. And the example I always think of is like, even if you chose one career, right? Like let's say you were really into psychology or something like that. You got your degree in that, and then you decide like afterwards, you're like, yeah, I don't really like this. Like you're not stuck with a psychology job the rest of your life. You can always go back to school. You can always find something else you like. The best example for that is like my mom. Like in Colombia, she went to school to be a lawyer as well. And she did that for a little bit. Then she moved to the US with my dad. And then my brother and I were born here. And while she was here, like when we were younger, she did a lot of like odd jobs and stuff, just because like her degree from Colombia didn't translate over to here because it's like different laws and everything. And like when we were younger, she did odd jobs. Then we moved back to Colombia. She went back to being a lawyer. Then she was a judge for a little bit. And then we moved to Alaska. She went to be a kind of an ELL teacher. It's like where kids that come into the US that don't really speak English and need a little bit of help catching up on that. She kind of like tutored them and kind of helped them for a bit. Then she went into the police academy at one point, and she didn't become a cop, but that was like an idea she had. And then she also, now she's a social worker. So, I mean, she's been all over the place. And I feel like a lot of times, like I said earlier, like you get your degree, you kind of think that like, this is my path for the rest of life. And if I ever have to change that, it's just over. I can't change it. But like, that's not the case at all. Like my mom changed careers many times, especially like even within the last like 10 years, she's changed careers, and I mean, she's rocking it, you know, she's killing it. So like your life isn't over. You have so much time to figure things out. And with my friend, circling back to that, I was kind of telling him that stuff, telling him that like, do the thing you want to do. If you decide one way or the other, do it because you want to, not because somebody else told you to. And so I told him to, or I guess we both came up with it. Like I've told people this in the past, he kind of brought it up as well, to write a pros and cons list. Because once you start doing that to make decisions on different things, you figure that out so fast to like what you actually want to do. In my case, like if I had written a pros and cons list for whether I should go straight into law school or do my traveling, like I go pros for law school, like I go into it, I can get it out of the way. And then cons, like I don't get to do my trip. I don't get to save up more money. I don't get to hang out with my friends longer. I don't get to do all these other things, and like so on and so forth. And I like at some point you kind of realize that like either the pros are kind of lacking a little bit, or the cons are kind of too much to really just look over. And it'll really help you decide like what you are really feeling, instead of kind of letting the pressures from just society, I guess, your parents, your friends, what you kind of expect to be at, dictate like what your choices you're making. Funnily enough, I had this idea to talk about this today, and then earlier I had an eye appointment just to see how my eyes were doing and stuff. And I got to talking with like the eye doctor, and she was talking about the same exact thing, like without even me really prompting it, because she was asking me like if I had any fun plans. I told her about my Japan trip, and then I told her about my Europe trip last year. And she started talking about how like when she was younger, she did that a lot. Like her and her sister would just look at like cheap flights. They paid like $30 and all of a sudden they're in Cuba, or $200 and all of a sudden they're in Africa. And that's so cool to me. Like you get to just build up so much dad lore, and it's not for everybody. Like whenever I say things like this, I'm not really saying that you should live your life this way or you should do this thing, right? It's more of like the mentality of like, either I want to travel, I want to work on my hobbies, I want to do these things and do that, or I want to go straight into work. Like I have lots of friends who they start getting so like antsy and so nervous whenever they're not working, because they just like genuinely enjoy it. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, like go for it. Keep working, keep doing your thing, keep advancing at the pace you want to go at. But some people are a little bit more laid back with it. Like for me, I like to just hang out. I'm still working. Obviously, I have to work. I have some like responsibilities and everything, but I'm also taking time off to go do my trips, go do the things I want to do. Like for example, like whenever people are getting married, like I feel like a lot of people get really weird about that topic as well. Just being real relationships, getting married, having kids, like it'll come at its own time. You don't have to really rush it. You don't have to just get in a relationship with somebody just to get it over with and be in a relationship. Everybody's kind of just advancing at their own pace. Anytime I see somebody announce that they're like getting married or having a kid, I just couldn't do it, you know, personally. And that's just like a me thing. Someday I want to have kids, someday I want to get married, but right now it's not really like in my game plan. And that's okay. Like my dad didn't get married until he was like 40. And I know that like my grandparents were really on his case about that, just because they had like an older perspective of like, you have to get married, you have to have kids, you have to do this thing. And then like my dad just wasn't really into it until later in life. And that's okay. Like everybody lives their own life. With that eye doctor, we talked about how like in Europe, I think it's a little bit more encouraged. In the US, we kind of have this culture about like, you gotta hustle, everything's gotta be a side hustle. You gotta be like drop shipping, you gotta be trying to come up with your passive income and all that. And in Europe, they're just like, yeah, dude, just go take a gap year, go explore the world, figure out what you want to do. And I really like that. There's not really a pressure to conform to what everybody else is doing. Like, if you want to go work, go work. If you want to go travel, go travel. And I think a quote I think about a lot, like it's like a common quote that people bring up, just like the focus on the journey, not the destination. But I kind of think of it from the one I heard it from was Hunter x Hunter. I really like Hunter x Hunter, and like the main character finds his dad and they're hanging out, and it's like the end of the series, and he is talking to him about how like he has like end goals and ambitions and everything, but he's not really worried about how he'll get there. He's just kind of enjoying like every step of the process. And I really like that, because like a lot of times, especially for me, I feel like I'm really tunnel visioned. I'm just like, I need to do this thing and that's it. And I kind of lose sight of like all the cool things that you get to do. So like for my Europe trip, for example, I basically just had certain destinations where I was going, but I didn't really have like a game plan. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna start in Italy, and then I kind of want to hit these countries, and eventually I have to be back in Italy so I can go back home. But I was just going day by day and just kind of like, today I'm in France. Oh, all of a sudden my friend's brother is selling her Chapel Roan tickets in Berlin. Okay, sick, I'll go do that. And I was just like all over the place. And I think life should be lived like that. Like it should be like an open world game, right? Like I know all you motherfuckers that have played Skyrim have never beaten the main story, okay? Or if you have, you did it like one time years ago when you were like 8, and now every time you replay it, you're just doing side quests. And I think more people should just kind of live their life just doing side quests. Don't worry too much about where I gotta be, what I gotta do. Oh, I'm 25. Oh, it's so over. I'm pushing 30 and all that. Like, just do your side quests, build up your dad lore, and do the things you want to do because you want to do them, not because other people are telling you to do them. I think for me personally, I'd rather sit around with my kids someday and like them randomly bring up like, I don't know, just something related, like, oh, it'd be so cool to go to Europe, or go, like for my friend, for example, like, I'm gonna get in a fight, dad, blah, blah, what do you know about fighting? And then him bring up just like, yeah, I spent 3 months in Thailand doing Muay Thai, just kicking cement and blah, blah, and just like doing the dad lore drop that dads tend to do. And like his kids just being blown away, then just kind of sitting there and be like, yeah, I went to college and then I did a job and did this thing. And I'm not trying to talk down to people that do that, because that's also valid. Like, I think you got to be realistic with it, right? Like, I really want to travel and see as much of the world as I can, but there are limitations. Like, I don't have a lot of money. I have to work. I have some other responsibilities. I can't just like ditch everything and just travel year round. So you temper it. That's why you do the pros and cons list, right? Like pros, this trip would be really cool. Cons, like I'm kind of short on money. I don't think my parents can really help me all that much with this. So it's definitely a game you got to play. Figure out where you're at, what you're doing. But again, it's all got to come from what you feel is the right path for you and not what other people dictate. And yeah, that's really all I have. Just keep being authentic. Okay. Like we talked about in a past video, keep doing the things you want to do and don't let other people tell you that you're behind in life or that you should be doing this thing instead of something you genuinely enjoy. This also like kind of applies to just, even if you're not like traveling or anything like that, like let's say for whatever reason you're just kind of hanging out, just working, or even just unemployed. Like if that's what you want to do, you don't have responsibilities, dude, go for it. I tell my little brother this all the time, like if you don't have to work, don't work. Set yourself up for the future. Don't just completely like blow off any responsibilities. Like you should, like I'm not a financial guy, okay? So don't listen to everything I say with a grain of salt, okay? But like do your Roth IRA, have a savings account, do all the little things you can do so that like in the future it makes it a little bit easier, but also have fun. If you don't have to work, like, and you just kind of want to hang out for a little bit, take a break, take a mental health break, just hang out, do your hobbies. It's got to be a mix though. Like I don't think you should, if you have responsibilities and like your parents are short on money or anything like that, and you're just being like a freeloader and just kind of hanging out in your parents' basement and just playing video games 24 hours a day, like that's not good. You gotta kind of find a reasonable like middle ground. But if you just want to hang out, like not work, your parents are well off, so it doesn't really matter. Like play games, do your little hobbies, create art, do whatever you want to do. Just don't waste it like doom scrolling or doing other things like that. Mix in a bunch of different things. Start reading, start playing instruments, go outside, go hike, work out, whatever you want to do. Don't feel like you have to be working all the time is what I'm trying to say, I guess. But that's really all I have. Again, just live your life, do what you want to do, and don't let other people kind of dictate the pace at which you should be living your life. So thank you guys for watching, and maybe next time we'll get a hiking video. It's actually a super nice day out today, and I decided to go on a night hike. So we're gonna go watch the full moon. But for the next video, I'll try to do it during the day so that I can actually record it. Oh, also, quick PS, okay? Quick little update. I did a jiu-jitsu tournament on Saturday, and it's been a month since I started training, and I wound up winning, so that was really cool. So go out and do things you guys want to do, okay? Keep being yourself, be authentic, do your own thing, and come back and watch more videos of mine. Thank you guys for watching.